Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm talking about Tom Ford Vanilla Sex. It's a brand new release from Tom Ford and I got to try it 2 nights ago when I went to London. I went to see the Nutcracker in London, which was really interesting. I've never been to a ballet before. I wanted to check it out and the dancing was amazing, but I don't think ballet's for me. I didn't really know the story. I know it now. I think I need a story. And yeah, but anyway, that being said, I'm really glad I experienced that. But between the restaurant and the ballet, there was a little bit of time to kill, and I ended up in the Tom Ford beauty and perfume store in Covent Garden, hoping that they would have Vanilla Sex, and apparently they are the only store in the UK that had it. So I got to try it. And she initially sprayed the card for me, and she also sprayed 3 big sprays. I asked her to spray 3 big sprays on my wrist so that I could see how it would perform. And I've got a lot to say. First of all, the name, very much a polarizing name. I think it lacks what's the word, creativity. I think it could have come up with something that was more of a play on words or an innuendo, but directly calling it Vanilla Sex, I mean, what's coming next? Kinky Sex, you know, it's just, for me, it lacks creativity. I think it's an ironic name, so I don't think they're trying to say that this is a boring vanilla fragrance, just like boring Vanilla Sex. Not that there's, in my opinion, anything wrong with Vanilla Sex. It's like you have to pretend to be cool, and I'm only into pain or kinky stuff or role play or whatever, and quite frankly, I'm sorry, maybe this is too much information, but I'd choose Vanilla Sex myself. But I think, yeah, let's not get into it too much. Let's not get into it. But so for me, the name, not so great. The price, I can't remember what it is, but we know that they're expensive. The bottle is in the higher upper end of the private blend. It's the very shiny bottles that I think maybe they're glass, but they're painted on the inside, so they're ultra shiny, I think. Sort of like a nudie beige colour bottle. Very, very nice, looks classy, not so much for the name. But let's get on to how it smells. So when she first sprayed it on here and also on my wrist, what I immediately got was a very fluffy cloud of vanilla and almond and maybe musk, but mostly the texture is what it was all about. And if you imagine the texture of flour, baking flour, that puff, if you was to drop a bit of flour and then you'd get this explosion of powder in the air from the flour, reminded me of that. My friend was with me, so she gave her opinion. She really liked that opening, and she doesn't like a lot of perfume, but she really enjoyed that. Very vanillic, of course, and just very, very powdery. At this point, I thought, okay. I mean, I've smelled this type of fragrance before, over and over again. It's nothing new, it's nothing groundbreaking. The closest I could get to comparing that opening was this here, which is the Shalimar Millésime Iris. It's probably closer to the Planifolia one, the vanilla one, but I don't have that. But it's that, it's not this, obviously it's not the same, but it's the texture and the sweetness and the fluffiness of this one. So actually the fragrance really has, for me, 3 very distinctive stages. So it is not linear, and to me that was my main concern. Not that I was really ever thinking of buying it, and I tend not to buy very vanilla centric fragrances. I like vanilla, but I like it to play a smaller role, not the main role most of the time. And I was expecting this vanilla fragrance, like many sweet vanilla fragrances, to be very linear and not to do a lot on the skin, and I was wrong. I was completely wrong. So the first blast is this almondy, flowery textured vanilla. Let me read you the notes. So there's bitter almond, vanilla, floral notes, tonka bean and sandalwood. They list an ultra vanille as a note, but basically they're all vanilla notes. One of them says vanilla absolute. The lady in the shop told me that there is a vanilla tincture in the fragrance that is unique to Tom Ford. No other brand can get their mitts on it. So there is a unique ingredient that is a natural vanilla tincture that is supposed to obviously be quite nice. What happened on my skin? I would say that very strong, and it was very strong. It really was projecting. It projected. Actually, I did it before dinner because I was smelling it. Yeah, it was before dinner because the dinner reservation was at 4:30 and we got there a bit early, so we went for a wander, went to Tom Ford. Right, okay, I remember now. And I remember in dinner, we kept smelling it, my friend kept smelling it, and she said, oh, it's really nice. It didn't change a lot for the first, I would say, hour to 2 hours, no, maybe even slightly longer. Yes, I'd say for the first 2 to 3 hours, it really was this almondy, vanilla, fluffy, flowery bomb. And it was, I don't know why I'm sniffing my wrist, but it's my memory of keep sniffing my wrist. And I remember being in the theatre, so by the time we got to the theatre, it was about 7 p.m. So I sprayed it just before 4 p.m. and about 7 p.m. I was still smelling very much the same fluffy vanilla-y almond. And I remember at one point going, it's starting to get on my nerves now because it hadn't changed very much. And I was thinking this is gonna wind me up because it's quite sweet, it's quite strong. And my friend really liked it. She was like, oh, but I really like it. But for me, I was thinking I'm gonna get bored of this. It smells really nice. I know everyone's gonna love it. Everyone that smells it on you is gonna, pretty much, if you like vanilla, everyone's going to tell you you smell really good, and it's definitely strong, definitely projecting. But it was starting to get on my nerves a little bit because it didn't seem like it was doing anything. And then watching the dancers doing all their amazing things, they are athletes. I can't even imagine how these ballet dancers do what they do, and the stamina to keep on doing these great, like these dances on the tips of their toes and all sorts. It was spectacular, really. Whilst watching it, I went for a sniff and I was like, hold up a minute, this has changed. And it had really taken quite a change, so I must have not been paying attention. It probably had a more gentle development towards the second stage, but I didn't notice it because I was watching dancing. And then I sniffed it and I was like, wow, okay, this has really changed. I got my friend to sniff it because I was curious about what she would say, because in my head I'm thinking this smells a little bit pissy, a little bit acidic, still vanillic, but it had lost this fluffy, flowery texture, this rich vanilla flower bomb, and it had gone a little sharper. And to me, a little pissy, a little bit animalic. And I asked my friend, I didn't give her any clue as to what I was thinking. I just said, oh, it's changed. And she kind of screwed her face up a little bit. I can't remember her exact words, but she basically echoed what I was thinking, that it was a little bit animalic now and it wasn't so mass appealing and friendly. And it reminded me of a fragrance. And it's so strange because some people say that Vanille de Tahiti is animalic and it's too animalic for them. And I never picked up on it before, but I was smelling this stage of the Tom Ford and I'm thinking that smells a bit animalic. That's reminding me of Vanille de Tahiti. And so now I get it. What people are saying is the animalic sort of element of Vanille de Tahiti. It's a little bit pissy, I guess. And that's what the Tom Ford did. It smelled a little bit like Vanille de Tahiti, more than a little bit like Vanille de Tahiti. Vanille de Tahiti maybe in its dry down. So it became sharper, slightly animalic, and on the pissy side of animalic. Not like literally smelling piss, but just erring on that animalic pissy side of things. Just a bit sharp, a little bit sour, still vanillic, but no longer this big fluffy sweet cloud. Still a bit sweet, but just not so fluffy and not so almondy as well. So that was that, and that kind of stayed there for quite a while. And I think it was only when I got home. So by the time I got home, it was gone 11 p.m. and I actually stayed up till 4 a.m. Not what I normally do, but I had a night shift to get through the next day. So the longer you stay up, the easier it is to get into the pattern of sleeping late and then coping with a night shift. So I actually ended up staying up watching TV till 4 a.m. and I was sniffing, of course, my wrists all throughout the evening. And what happened was it changed again, and this time I was like, that's reminding me of something, and it was reminding me of Guerlain Le Plus Beau Jour de ma Vie. I was getting, so I think this is the first point I realised that I could smell the floral notes, because certainly in the beginning, that first stage, I did not pick up on any florals at all. And I don't know that I did in the second stage. But when we got to this third and final stage, it smelled like a little bit like this, in that I could smell some florals, possibly a very muted florals, but possibly orange blossom. It felt like white florals to me, but nothing really heady or nothing screechy, nothing sharp, but just blended in with that really gorgeous vanilla. The vanilla does smell expensive in here. It does smell like there's real vanilla in Vanilla Sex. But that far dry down to me was this more muted, so it wasn't massively projecting. But it was my favourite part. It smelled like there was a little bit of an aniseed. So in here, in the Guerlain Le Plus Beau Jour de ma Vie, only in the opening, there's a smell that's a little bit like sugared almonds. And I got that in the far dry down of the Tom Ford. And then I also got the florals that I get from the Guerlain, and this really special, expensive smelling vanilla, and a muskiness as well. And definitely, as I said, there was like the sugared almond effect. So it was still almondy, vanillic, but this time it wasn't this big powder bomb like the opening. It had lost the pissiness of the mid, and it was this really delectable, slightly floral, musky almond vanilla. And that is really it. I would say that the longevity is excellent. Projection really good for the first maybe 5-6 hours, and then it does what you would expect a perfume to do. Like, it still wasn't a skin scent even when I was sitting there at 3-4 in the morning, and that would have then been 12 hours in. It was still giving me a little projection. And don't forget, it's from my wrist. I don't think wrists project much. Mine don't. If I want projection, I need to get it on the heat of my body around here. So I would say, if you were to buy it, you're not going to need more than 2 or 3 sprays, and you're going to have a really good projection and amazing longevity. Certainly that's the experience I had on my skin. So overall, I don't think I would buy it, because I think that first stage just got a little bit annoying. Only because it went on so long being this big fluffy ball of vanilla. Lots of people will love that, but for me, I just need things to be a little bit more changeable, even though the fragrance is as a whole quite changeable. It had 3 very distinct stages, not linear at all. But I just think that first part was probably my least favourite, even though I know that it smelled very good. I enjoyed how it smelled, but it's not quite how I want to smell for that length of time. The sort of smell I would love in my house. If I could have a candle that smells like that, absolutely. And anyone walking by me smelling like that, I'm gonna be like, wow, they smell amazing. So overall, it's getting a thumbs up from me. I do think it's a good fragrance. It smells like it's made from really nice materials, and I love that it has those 3 different stages so that you get something different at different stages of the day, which to me is great. I just don't really love linear scents that much, especially when they're very sweet. Sweetness level, I'd say at the opening, that was when it was the most sweet. So I would say sweetness level, similar to these 2 fragrances really, the Millésime Iris and the Guerlain Le Plus Beau Jour de Ma Vie. If you don't know those, it's almost as sweet as La Belle from Jean Paul Gaultier. It's pretty sweet, but not quite as sweet as La Belle, I'd say. Then the middle stage, I'd say slightly less sweet, and the fast stage, it stays at that sort of sweetness as the mid. So yeah, definitely quite sweet. I mean, something that's called vanilla sex is going to be quite sweet. It doesn't smell of sex. As I said, it did have an animalic note, but it didn't smell like sex, unless you're not into vanilla sex and you like people pissing on you. But then I said it's named ironically, so maybe that's part of the story behind it. I mean, I'm sure Tom Ford is a very experienced gentleman, so that could very well be part of the story, but we digress. I'm just editing this video now, and I realised I didn't mention that I got a lactonic note from it. Something smelt milky, and I don't think it was immediately, but I can't remember at what stage I noticed it. So just to bear in mind that there is a milkiness that came through at some point in the fragrance, but I just can't quite place when it was and what stage that was at. That is my review for Tom Ford Vanilla Sex, based on just 1 wearing, so bear that in mind. If you're planning to blind buy it, do your research, get plenty of opinions, because it's a pricey one. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in another video. Bye.